Hi guys, welcome back to the RDRx channel. Today's topic is going to be the top fad 3 diets I saw in my practice this year. We're going to start with the keto diet. So it's not just Atkins renamed, it's actually a little bit more complicated. Yes, it's low carb, but it's also a very high percent fat. So not everybody actually knows how to follow it appropriately. So I'm just going to give some examples of what I saw. For example, I had one girl tell me, well, I've been eating keto for dinner. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to be kind of following it in order to be in ketosis pretty regularly and strictly. You can't just have every other meal keto or something like that, or be eating a keto product and thinking you're going to get results that way. The other things I saw in my practice were some younger individuals with elevated LDL and cholesterol after starting to follow the diet. So if you're not incorporating non-starchy vegetables, heart-healthy fats, and are really just focusing on the saturated fats, for example, higher fat meats, cheeses, dairy, things like that, it really could have some serious health side effects. So where you might go wrong is focusing on too many of those foods, and when you see results quickly, it's typically because you're making an extreme diet change. Cutting out all carbohydrates is a pretty big impact on your diet, and it's going to show that in your weight as well. Another thing too is you may be experiencing some fluid loss, so just keep that into consideration as well. So things you can eat on the keto diet are going to be your nuts, your cheeses, meats, poultry, eggs, things like that. And you can also incorporate some of those lower carb vegetables, but forget potatoes and carrots. They might be a little bit too high. You're going to want to skip anything with added sugar, grains, and fruits, things that are higher in carb, which are also good for you. So there's some pros and cons to kind of changing to that diet and eliminating a lot of foods. So if you're choosing to follow a keto diet, I really recommend working with a dietitian or a healthcare professional that can monitor your ketone levels, your energy levels, and your cognitive function. It's really important to personalize this diet and make sure that you're still getting all the micro and macronutrients that you need to feel your best and also feel your body the best. Following a really high-fat diet can change your gut health. It can reduce fiber in your diet. You can also experience some muscle loss if you're not eating enough protein to preserve that lean muscle mass. Other things that I've seen is elevated cholesterol and LDL and some of those heart disease risk factors, which there is conflicting research out there. We still just don't know enough. So always speak to your provider before changing your diet drastically. Okay, so next I'm going to start with intermittent fasting, which I don't even know what that means anymore because so many people are turning it into what they want it to be, which is also fine. But some people will take a full day off of eating, some will skip breakfast, which I feel like intermittent fasting is a term for millennials to say they're skipping breakfast or closing the kitchen earlier. So it's kind of different for every person. So the fasting part of it just means you're not eating for a certain amount of time, which could be different for every individual. Why I've seen fasting work is when somebody is reducing the amount of calories that they're taking in. That's typically why fasting works for some people. And also sometimes fixing those habits in the evening. If you're deciding to close the kitchen earlier, that could be a really great thing as far as not snacking in the evening or having those desserts out of habit or emotions. So that's where I've seen some benefits of the fasting. Something really important to consider is if you're doing athletic activity, again, working with a dietitian or a healthcare provider during those times of fasting to make sure that you're actually not causing health problems, and also not overeating during feeding times or feeding days is really important if you're choosing to fast. Individuals choosing to fast should be really on top of what macro and micronutrients they're adding into their diet. They may need some supplementation if they're not currently eating enough or making the best choices on their non-fasting days. Lastly, I'm going to go over Whole30. That was very prevalent in my practice because people are trying to eat better, eat less processed foods, which I think is wonderful. It's great to really focus on getting more whole foods in your diet. However, some trends that I saw with the Whole30 were people obsessing a little bit too much over it. You know, it kind of eliminates a lot of food, social events as far as, you can't really go get pizza with friends, you can't drink alcohol. Having processed foods as backup emergency snacks and things like that, I think are still really important to maintaining a healthy diet. So as far as I'm concerned, doing the Whole30 I think is safe and just fine, but I would really encourage finding that balance afterwards. So if you feel like you can really sustain eating 30 foods the rest of your life, that may work for you, but for the majority, I think it's really important to have that balance and quality of life and be able to enjoy some of the foods that aren't allowed on the diet. I don't see a problem with dairy or whole grains or some of the other minimally processed options out there. So that's something to really consider. If you just follow the diet for 30 days and fall off, that may not be the best fit, but you may learn a lot about what foods have added sugar and what, minimally processed foods you really enjoy. Thank you for watching this video. If you have comments, questions, I'd love to hear them. Click the link below to subscribe and like this video, and I will see you soon. Is that good, or should I redo it? I felt kind of awkward. To start with, I'm not done yet.